Woodworking is an old craft, very old. The ancient Egyptian and Roman civilizations both showed considerable evidence of advanced woodworking. Heck, stone tools discovered to be used by Neanderthals had evidence of working wood. Across the globe, woodworking has evolved for centuries, from the utilitarian usage of hunting tools to ceremonial and culturally significant altars and thrones. From the spears and primitive tools of the Stone Age to the present, where we find ourselves in the Information Age, a wealth of knowledge and techniques from cultures around the world is readily available at your fingertips. While I'd say I'm relatively creative, I don't think I'll ever come up with a novel form of conflicting geometry as famously beautiful and pragmatic as the dovetail. It's a hallmark of fine woodworking, and it's great. I'm curious though why I don't see more of the sliding dovetail variety. Sure, if you search it out, you'll find them. They aren't rare, but they are nowhere near as ubiquitous as the dovetail. I just find them so simple, but brilliant. I was in need of a wall organizer thing for my office. My first thought was a French cleat system. I love French cleats. They work on the same principle of conflicting geometry, but I wanted to explore other ideas. Then I thought of a sliding dovetail. It was right in front of me. Why not? It's used in modern day machinery, from the dovetail ways on many jointers to the cross slides on metal lathes. The quick release plates I keep on the bottom of my cameras to hold them to tripods? Sliding dovetails. I made a shaker dresser out of cherry a while back that utilized exposed sliding dovetails as a design feature in the carcass construction of the piece. That piece actually ended up being an article in Popular Woodworking a few years ago, which was nice. So why don't we see the sliding dovetail applied more frequently by modern woodworkers? I aim to change that. This is a story about that. The idea for the wall organizer was simple. Cut the female component of the dovetail in a board and mount it to the wall. Then make different style inserts with the corresponding male components and have the inserts be interchangeable as my organizational needs change. With a dovetail bit in the router table and after some testing, I cut the dovetail slot in 2 passes, rotating the board 180 degrees and running it again to ensure it was centered. I was being lazy and I didn't remove most of the waste by cutting a dado first, though you should so you don't overload the bit with chips. I'm a rebel, what can I say? I used some shop-made auxiliary fences to gap the bit and used some scrap to find the fit of the male parts. For these sliders, I wanted a loose enough fit that they would slide easily, but not too loose that it would weaken the holding power. This is a proof of concept project, so I was using scraps and cutoffs. The back is made from red oak, and this piece happens to be cherry. I laid out the part to drill some 3/4 inch holes. I scribed a line down the center and stepped out the spacing with dividers to evenly space the holes without doing much math. I bored the holes at the drill press and I think my speed was off or my bit was dull. The holes weren't as clean as I'd like. I rounded over the sharp edges with apparently another dull bit. Nothing a little sanding couldn't fix though. For the next holder, I wanted to employ some cool geometry. You may have heard of the number phi, or the golden mean, golden ratio, the divine proportion. It's found everywhere in nature and used in architecture. This magic number is 1.618, a ratio found when dividing subsequent numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. In this case, the width of the board is 4 inches, so I marked the center point of that, which is 2 inches, and I marked 4 inches down. When I set a compass to a 4-inch radius and make an arc of what would be an 8-inch diameter circle, that was a lot of math to say the shape I made. If you calculate the area of an 8-inch circle and divide that by the area of the shape I made, you end up with a number that's pretty darn close to phi. I'm still experimenting though. I took the piece to the mounting board where I laid out some more lines to make sure the holder was squared to the mounting board. It was then I decided the piece had too much visual weight, so I resawed it on the bandsaw, taking about 1/3 off. I had made some dovetail runner stock on some scrap and cut it off the table saw. The push stick I'm using here is simply a board with some lower grit sandpaper CA glued to the edge. I used the runner and a square to make some marks for a dado for the runner to sit in. If I really wanted a perfect fit, I'd be using a marking knife instead of a pencil, but this was sort of a run and gun build that I figured out as I went. Using my crosscut sled, I set the height of the table saw blade to the thickness of the lip of the runner, and cut a quick dado using my regular combination blade. To clean everything up, I turned to my hand tools. I took care of the bandsaw marks with a number 4 smoothing plane. The dado got cleaned out with a chisel, admittedly in need of sharpening. If you can't tell, this piece is red oak, and here you can see where a knife line would have been better than a pencil line. I marked the length of the runner and put the piece in the vise. I prefer Japanese pull saws over their Western counterparts, but they both work well. When I'm making cuts like this, I want to be square and plumb. I look at the reflection of the piece in the saw plate. I try to correct the angle of the saw until the reflection looks like a continuation of the piece. You can see me adjust until the offcut and the reflection align. The runner was still a bit proud, I'd say about a pencil line strong, so I put it back in the vise and took the tiniest of cuts. This is where a shooting board would come in handy, though I haven't ever made one for myself. Future project. For the radius on the top and bottom of this piece, I decided to turn to the disc sander. Keeping one of these abrasive cleaning sticks next to the sander is crucial. They are around $10 to $15, and I'm still on the first one I've ever bought. With the radius sanded, I turned back to my hand tools to put a chamfer on the round. Here I'm using a block plane with a really shallow cut to put a chamfer on this end grain, then chamfer the straight edges the same way. To glue the runner in the dado, I'm using a combination of wood glue and Starbond thick CA glue and accelerator. The wood glue is for permanence and the Starbond is to hold the piece in place while the other glue cures. It works really well, especially if you don't want to wait on clamp time for a project like this. Even though my cuts were really close to perfect, I reconciled any deviations with my smoother. Then I tested my fit and pretended to play air hockey. It probably wasn't necessary, but I eased the sharp edges of the dovetail runner so it wouldn't splinter and get caught up when sliding back and forth. I've been trying out some Bridge City tools over the winter and thought I'd make a place for my dual square to hang. I grabbed some walnut scrap and cut a small groove in the end off camera for the blade of the square to register in. Then I chamfered the edges with their HP 9V2. To attach it to the oak, I used the same wood glue and Starbond trick. With my organizers made, it was time to start finishing. I put an 1/8 inch roundover on the mounting board and sanded everything up to 220 grit. I made this board 34 inches long because I knew I'd put screws in 1 inch from either side to hit the studs in the wall at 32 inches apart, since my studs are 16 inches on center. The finish I'm using is Mahoney's Utility Finish, followed by the Mahoney Finishing Paste. It's a walnut oil-based finish, I believe, and is mainly used for finishing turned bowls, but it's what I had readily available. Danish oil or something like that would probably give you similar results. Attaching it to the wall was as simple as driving screws through the pre-drilled holes and into the studs of the wall. And with that, this project was finished, for now. I'm pretty happy with how the system works. I think I'll refer to this as the sliding dovetail cleat system. I could see making small boxes or trays to fit into the mounting board, or using hose clamps or something more elegant to hold apothecary bottles for displaying plant clipping propagations, or something like that. I'm not sure, but I'd love to see other people's take on this idea and expand upon it. If you do make something like this, please tag me on Instagram using my handle @WMWalkerCo. If you like this video, let me know in the comments, and I always appreciate it when someone chooses to subscribe. I'll add affiliate links to some of the stuff I use in the shop, including Starbond CA glues, which I am an ambassador for, as well as some of the music I use in my videos. Look for those either in the description or the pinned comments of this video. I hope this video inspires you to explore the power of the sliding dovetail, and as always, thanks for watching.